بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى الطيبين الطاهرين. We continue our study of فصل الخامس, chapter 5, في علم تعالى, on God's knowledge. The last part of this chapter is about different opinions that philosophers, theologians, mystics have about knowledge of God. We mean by mystics, theoretical mystics. So far we mentioned 6 views. 7 is the view of those who say, again this is some of the philosophers, that the essence of God has detailed knowledge of the first ma'lul, the first created thing, but not detailed about other things. Ijmali knowledge about other things. So he has knowledge, but with respect to the first one is tafsili, with respect to those lower is ijmali, like a kind of holistic, and as a whole he knows them but not all the details. As-sabi'u qawlu ba'dihim inna dhatahu ta'ala ilmun tafsiliyun bil ma'lul al-awwal wa ijmaliyun bima dunah. Essence of God. In the 6, God has nothing about other ma'lulat. He has only knowledge of the first one. And even knowledge of the first one is by the presence of the first one, not in his own essence. So, أَنَّ ذَاتَهُ تَعَالَى عِلْمٌ تَفْصِيلِيٌّ بِالْمَعْلُولَ, but essence of God is knowledge. Even they don't say essence has knowledge. They say essence is knowledge. But detailed knowledge about first effect, ma'lul al-awwal, wa ijmaliyun bima duna. And it is ijmali about something which is lower than that. Wa dhatul ma'lul al-awwal, but then the first ma'lul, which is the first sadir, the first thing which is created, ilmun tafsiliyun bil ma'lul al-thani. The first one also has detailed knowledge about the second, but ijmali about lower. So basically, everyone just knows one after itself. The detailed knowledge is just one under itself. وَفِيهِ مَا فِي سَابِقِهِ. Again, in this, the same problem exists as the previous one. This means that God, in his essence, doesn't know his creatures. 8. Ma nusiba ila Furforius, again one of the Greek figures, anna ilmahu ta'ala bittihadihi ma'al uqul. Knowledge of God happens by unity of God with intellects. God is somehow united or not identified, but connected, united with uqul, and these uqul are making knowledge of God. So Allah says, first of all, we are not now concerned about how he knows. Your idea is more about how he knows. We want to say whether he knows, and it's a matter of what is his knowledge, not how that happens. You know, sometimes you explain to me how our eye works, for example. But sometimes you want to say, what is knowledge of the things which are seen? أنه إنما يكفي لبيان نحو تحقق العلم. This view is only sufficient for explaining the way knowledge happens. They say if God wants to know something, it is because of his unity with عقول. أنه بالاتحاد. According to them, the way God knows is through اتحاد. دون العرض. It's not that knowledge is an accident for God. It's not something that accidentally happens to God. But أما كونه علما تفصيليا بالأشياء قبل الإيجاد. But to say that knowledge of God is a detailed knowledge about things before creating them, فلا, this doesn't explain that. So the same problem again repeats, that this view is not able to show us that God knows things in his essence even before creating them. Okay, these are 8 views that maybe they are more problematic. Yeah? But then there are 2 more views that seem to be stronger. So these are the first 8 views. And among these 2, 9 and 10, Allah prefers 9, seems to prefer 9. Although you expect that what he prefers should come at the end, but he prefers 9, and then he mentions 10, which is by Masha'un, like Ibn Sina and others, which is strong, but not as strong as 9. ما نسب إلى أكثر المتأخرين. This is the view which is attributed to majority of later scholars, later philosophers. Pardon? No. It seems that these are more philosophers. Although Allama has problem with this as well, but it seems not very far from his preferred idea. He says, أن علمه بذاته علم إجمالي بالأشياء فهو يعلم الأشياء كلها إجمالا بعلمه بذاته. His knowledge of his essence is a kind of knowledge of things, but ijmali. Ilmun ijmali means not in a detailed way. So, هو يعلم الأشياء كلها إجمالا. He knows everything. إجمالا بعلمه بذاته. By his knowledge of his essence, he knows also other things. But إجمالا. أما علمه بالأشياء تفصيلا. But his knowledge of the things in a detailed way, فبعد وجودها, can happen only after they exist. After they exist, he knows them. Why? Because knowledge follows معلوم لأن العلم تابع للمعلوم ولا معلوم قبل وجود المعلوم. If something doesn't exist, how can be known? So, knowledge of God, of things in a detailed way, comes later when he creates them. This view, if it is said like this, of course it's very obvious that Allah is not happy and he refutes. But if you say it in this way, that he has one knowledge in his essence of things that although is ijmali but has kashf tafsili, then that will be okay. You know, if you say this ilm ijmali is without kashf tafsili, then that's a problem. It means that God doesn't know them in details, and when he creates them, he comes to know them. This is the problem. But you can articulate this view in a way that would be okay. And to say, in his essence, he has knowledge of himself. He has also knowledge of his creatures. One knowledge, but one knowledge which is reaching out to all the details without being divided. Because if you divide knowledge of God, then it's compound. Do you understand my point? If we say it in the way that first was said, it's a problem. To say that God doesn't know things in details in his essence and only knows them after they're created. So the problem is ma fi sabiqihi, that God in his essence doesn't know something. Another thing is that ala anna kawna ilmihi ala nahw al-irtisam wal-husul mamnu'un. The second problem is that if you want to say knowledge of a God is by having images of things, this is also a problem. If you want to say God after creates them is going to have images. 10. Ma nusiba ila al-masha'in. The 10th view is what is attributed to peripatetic philosophers. It can be before Islam or in Islam, people like Ibn Sina, like Bahman-Yar Farabi. أن علمه تعالى بالأشياء قبل إيجادها بحضور ماهياتها على النظام الموجود في الوجود لذاته تعالى لا على نحو الدخول فيها والاتحاد بها بل على نحو قيامها بها بالثبوت الذهني على وجه الكلية. Mashayin have the idea that knowledge of God about things like knowledge of water, wood, stone, all these things. His knowledge of the things before creating them. This is the most difficult part perhaps, or one of the most difficult parts. How God knows all these things when they don't exist. So, knowledge of God about things before creating them is because of presence of their mahiyat, their qualities, in the same system and structure that we have in the world of realities for the essence of God. So, they are present, these mahiyat, present for God, but even before they are created. For example, we have a father and child who are not yet born, but mahiyya of this father and mahiyya of this child are there. But the problem is that the mahiyya of child is not child of mahiyya of father. It's very important. Do you get my point? Mahiyya of child and mahiyya of father are independent. So, these mahiyat are present على النظام الموجود في الوجود, in the same structure, just empty from existence, as if you have some casts and then existence fills it. They are present لذاته تعالى, for essence of God. لا على نحو الدخول فيها والاتحاد بها. Of course, not in the way that they are mixed with God and inside God, بل على نحو قيامها بها بالثبوت الذهني. But they are present for God like mental existence. على وجه الكل. But not juz. You remember one of the discussions we had previous section was ilm is kulli and juz'i. Kulli means it's not changeable. Juz'i meant it's mutaqayyir. So, ala wajhil kulliyya. So they are present for God like our knowledge of images. But بشكل كلي means without عدم التغير without change. Knowledge is not changing with the change of معلوم. فهو علم عنائي حصوله العلمي مستتبع لحصوله العيني. If you remember when we were talking about different types of fa'il in the discussion about illiyah, illatu ma'lul, we had one discussion that I also put on the board about different types of fa'il. And what one type of fa'il was fa'il ina'i, that the image and the action are coming, one brings the other quickly. So they say this is ilmun ina'iyyun. It's like fa'il ina'i. What does it mean? They explain themselves. حصوله العلمي مستتبع لحصوله العيني. As soon as it is conceived, it happens. It brings its existence. I can tell you also. Chapter 6 of section 7. In chapter 6, then sixth view, as this, al-fa'ilu bil-inaya, that when you think it happens, like what? Yes, exactly. Exactly. Someone who is on a high tree, for example, as soon as he thinks of falling, he falls. Okay? So, هو علم عنائي حصوله العلمي. So as soon as God thinks, they come to existence. وقد جرى على هذا القول أكثر المتكلمين. Also the majority of متكلمين have accepted this. وإن خطأوه وطعنوا فيه من حيث إثبات الكلية في العلم. Although they have criticized and they have objected because they don't believe that God has or knowledge can be kulli. Yeah, they say knowledge must be kulli. فإنهم جروا على كونه علما حصوليا. So مشاؤون, they don't believe knowledge is juz'i. They say knowledge must be kulli. But it's similar to mutakallimin. Many mutakallimin have accepted. The only difference is whether knowledge is kulli or juz'i. فإنهم جروا على كونه علما حصوليا قبل الإيجاد. So according to them, God has these images, and these images are present for God. This means that God has ilm husuli before creating. وأنه على حاله قبل وجود الأشياء وبعده. And God is not changing before or after creating. So he has these images before and after creating them. Of course, when they are created, they are also present for him. But even before creating them, he has these images. But وَفِيهِ مَا فِي سَابِقِهِ. But this has the problem that it means that God does not have knowledge in his essence except through images, and then this means that God is subject to combination. God becomes compound. على أن فيه إثبات العلم الحصولي لموجود مجرد ذاتا وفعلا. So God in essence doesn't have knowledge. One problem. The second problem is that this view is affirming not conceptual knowledge or ilm husuli for a being like God, which is mujarrad, absolutely mujarrad. God has no materiality, no potentiality in his action or essence. وَقَدْ تَقَدَّمَ فِي مَبَاحِثِ الْعِلْمِ وَالْمَعْلُومِ. And it has been said before when we were discussing in the last section 11, about knowledge and what is known. We said أن الموجود المجرد ذاتا وفعلا لا يتحقق فيه علم حصولي. We said something which is in essence an action mujarrad doesn't have ilm husuli. Ilm husuli is only for nafs, because nafs is mujarrad zatan la fi'lan. We are subject to change. Another problem is أن فيه إثبات وجود ذهني من غير وجود عيني يقاس إليه. You are saying that there is mental existence without having external existence that correspond to it. ولازمه أن يعود وجودا عينيا آخر للموجود الخارجي قبل وجوده العيني الخاص به. So this means that you are making this wujud al-dhihni by itself a kind of existence. And when it comes to existence, that becomes a second existence. Okay? And this is finally going back to the fourth opinion. It goes back to the opinion of Aflatun, that you are making these images something that exists eternally. So this is a problem. So, I repeat what I said on Monday, or last Wednesday, or maybe Monday. I said, maybe what we can say is, before creation, and when I say before, according to philosophers, this before is not necessarily in time. Yeah? Because God has no time that you can say before creating. And especially because we know that according to philosophers, Muslim philosophers, after Khaja Nasir, that alam is qadim. Yes, there was no time that nothing existed. So it is a matter of order. When you are at the level of essence, God has knowledge. At the level of essence. It's before creation. Before we come down to the creation, or before we go further, you can look at it vertically or horizontally. Anyway, at the level of God, God knows himself. God knows whatever he is going to do and create. He knows everything, but not as different pieces of knowledge. Is one thing, one essence, one knowledge that covers everything. But when he creates things, at least those which are mujarrad, they are present for him. According to Sheikh Ashraq, even maddiyat are present for him. But according to the view of Allama and others, mujarradat are present for him. But these mujarradat, if they have knowledge of maddiyat, their knowledge of maddiyat is also present for him. So maybe maddiyat are too little to be known directly by God, and they are subject to changes, but God knows them through mujarrad. But according to Sheikh Ashraq now, even they are present for God. But in any case, in his essence, even before they are created or after they stop to exist, in his essence, he has knowledge of everything. But علم إجمالي في عين الكشف التفصيلي. So this is very similar to the ninth view, but ninth view had a two way of developing it. One view is way is bad. You can develop it in this way. Okay, Alhamdulillah, we finished this. The next issue is about power of God. Let me see how much time we have. الفصل الثالث في قدرته تعالى. This is the second important quality. We talked about ilm, and now we have to talk about qudra. But what is amazing, and if you remember, if you have listened to my lectures on Islamic theory of education, you know, I say that knowledge is so important that I claim that it's maybe the most important quality of God. Here you see, even power of God goes back to his knowledge. Life of God also involves his power and knowledge. Arsh is also knowledge of God, you know. Because also you have to remember, one type of knowledge of God is through presentations that are there. You know, in Lawh Mahfuz there is everything. It's a creation of God, or you can say a manifestation or a level of knowledge of God. So, الفصل الثالث في قدرته تعالى. قد تقدم أن القدرة كون الشيء مصدرا للفعل عن علم. What is power? This power is different from power of an engine. You know, say engine has power, but that's not power. That is, maybe you can say, force. Power means to do something with understanding, or as some people said, the agent, the doer, should be in the way that if he decides, he does it. If he decides, he doesn't do it. You know, machine doesn't understand what he's doing and has no control over what he does or it does. Yeah, philosophically, we don't say machine has قدرة. كون الشيء مصدرا للفعل عن علم. If something is the origin and source for action, and ilmin, with knowledge, this is called قدرة. ومن المعلوم أن الذي ينتهي إليه الموجودات الممكنة هو ذاته المتعالية. And it is known that the one to which all contingent beings end is his transcendent essence. So everything comes from God, and God has knowledge, so God has also power. إذ لا يبقى وراء الوجود الممكن. Why we say everything comes from God? Because it doesn't remain beyond contingent being except الوجود الواجب من غير قيد وشرط. Something which is necessary without any condition, which is واجب الوجود بالذات. واجب الوجود بالغير has conditions, but واجب الوجود بالذات has no conditions. So what is there other than ممكنات? Only واجب الوجود. So he is the source. All ممكنات come from واجب الوجود بالذات. فهو المصدر للجميع. واجب الوجود بالذات is master for everything. Means master means it is where everything is issued, everything is originating. وعلمه عين ذاته. We said about qualities of God, that qualities of God are this same as his essence, yeah, the qualities of perfection. وعلمه عين ذاته التي هي المبدأ للصدور المعاليل الممكنة. His knowledge is the same as his essence, which is the origin for issuance of contingent effects. So, since he has knowledge and he has done everything, فَلَهُ الْقُدْرَةِ. And again, like his knowledge, his qudra is the same as his essence. Yeah, وَهِيَ عَيْنُ الذَّاتِ. His qudra is the same as his essence. Knowledge of God, power of God are the same as essence of God. They are not separate from each other except in concepts. We said this. The same reality is essence, the same reality is knowledge, the same reality is power, is life, and so on and so forth. Question. You may say, I know that everything in nature, for example, is created by God, comes from God. But what about human voluntary actions? Aren't we creating them? Aren't we doing them? So aren't we master? How can you say God is master for everything? So basically, these people have the idea, they thought, if we say we have free will, it means that God has power over everything except our voluntary actions. Yeah? This is the idea of tafwiz. That God has dedicated this part to us. He has control over everything else apart from our voluntary actions. فَإِنْ قُلْتَ أَفْعَالُ الْإِنسَانِ الْإِخْتِيَارِيَّةِ. If you say that voluntary actions of human beings مخلوقة لنفس الإنسان, they are created by human beings themselves. They are not creatures which are created by God. They are done by us. Why? لأنها منوطة باختياره, means باختيار الإنسان, because they depend on our choice, our will. They are voluntary. If we want, we do it. If we don't want, we don't do it. لأنها منوطة باختياره. He means إنسان. إن شاء فعل. If he wants, he does it. وإن لم يشاء لم يفعل. Because متكلمين say قدرة means what? كون الفاعل بحيث إذا شاء فعل وإذا شاء لم يفعل. إن لم يشاء لم يفعل. So, our voluntary actions are created by us. وَلَوْ كَانَتْ مَخْلُوقَةً لِلَّهِ. If they were created by God, مَقْدُورَةً لَهُ. And they were under the power of God, كَانَ الْإِنسَانُ مُجْبَرًا عَلَى الْفِعْلِ لَا مُخْتَارًا فِيهِ. It's the idea of Mu'tazila. Then it means that human beings were forced to do it. If it was creation of God, it means that we were forced to do it. We were not free in doing them. فَأَفْعَالُ الْإِنسَانِ الْإِخْتِيَارِيَّةِ. So voluntary actions of human beings خَارِجَةٌ عَنْ تَعَلُّقِ الْقُدْرَةِ. They are outside boundaries of power. Power of God doesn't belong to human voluntary action. God has basically withdrawn himself from that part, that realm, has left it to us, delegated to us, tafwiz. فَالْقُدْرَةُ لَا تَعُمُّ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. So, qudra does not include everything. Okay? This is the view of Mu'tazilah. What is the answer? You must be able to give the answer. Yeah. So we say our free will is not an exception to his power. We are under him, not next to him. Mhm. So he wants us to be free. But in the end of the day, our free will is only part of illat ta'am. Is maybe juz akhir, is maybe the last part, but he does it. But when it comes to voluntary actions, part of it is through our free will. But still he does it. In other words, when we decide to do, he does it. Those things which are not ikhtiyari, whether you want or not, they happen. But yes, he knows what you want to do even from before, but he knows what you want to do freely. Not that because he knows you have to do it, because you are going to do it that way, he knows that you are going to do it that way. God knows what this person is going to do. This person is going to do this freely. God knows that this person is going to do this or that freely. For example, this person decides to go home. God knows that. But God knows that he decides to go. Not that God knows that he's going to home, then he has to go to home. Otherwise, knowledge of God becomes ignorance. It's not like that. It's the other way around. Because ma'loom always comes first in order. Ilm in order comes after ma'loom. In time may come before. For example, you know that tomorrow sun is going to rise from the east. You know that. But is sun forced to rise tomorrow from the east because you know? No, it's other way, because you know. Or for example, you know that there's going to be moon eclipse. Is it because you know it has to happen, or because it's going to happen, you know? So knowledge of God does not affect our behavior in the sense that we become forced because he knows. قلت ليس معنى كون الفعل اختياريا تساوي نسبته إلى الوجود والعدم حتى حين الصدور. The meaning of an action being voluntary, it's not that its relation with existence and non-existence is equal even up to the time that it's going to be created. It's always equal. No, it has to become wajib bil-ghayr. It has to become zaruri. الشيء ما لم يجب لم يوجد. You decide, and then after that, God makes it necessary and does it. أوجبت فوجبت فأوجدت فوجدت.
Because the teacher knows that he's going to fail. The fact that the teacher knows the question, something like that,
Yeah.
students will not.
Yes. For example, I know that some of you don't do mubahasa. You cannot say because you knew, then we couldn't do mubahasa. You cannot, put blame on me. So, you knew that we are not going to do mubahasa, so we couldn't do mubahasa. We wanted to do mubahasa, but because you knew, no, it's the other way around. Because you were not going to do mubahasa, I could see the signs, so I knew that. Yes? Yeah, that was maybe you are talking about the idea of qadwa wa qadar, that Allah can take someone with his free will into his plan. You mean that? Yeah. This is when we talked about Qaza Qadar. Like Pharaoh, for example, that Allah uses him and his plan into his master plan. And we said this is the meaning of, or at least one meaning of, makaru wa makar Allah wallahu khayrul makirin. Suppose, two people want to kill each other. So normally the tafsir of makaru wa makar Allah is that, for example, A wants to kill B, but B is more capable, so he kills A before A kills B. Yeah, this is the meaning of makaru wa makar Allah according to normal tafsir. Yeah, A and B, each of them wants to do something. A wants to kill B, B wants to kill A, but B is stronger before this kills. But my understanding is A wants to kill B, and B makes A to kill himself. Because he plans in the way that he kills himself. He shoots at himself. Pharaoh shooted at himself. Okay? It's very important. So, قلت ليس معنى كون الفعل اختياريا تساوي نسبته إلى الوجود والعدم حتى حين الصدور. The meaning of something being voluntary is not that its relation with existence and non-existence is equal, even up to the time of occurrence, up to the time of creation. No. Yes, Mahiyya has equal relation, but it has to become necessary so that it happens. فَمِنَ الْمُحَالِ, it's impossible. صدور الممكن من غير ترجح وتعين لأحد الجانبي وجوده وعدمه. It's impossible something happens without one side being preferred and become necessary. Either wujud must become necessary, so it happens, or adam becomes necessary, so it doesn't happen. Yeah, so it is either wajib bil ghayr or mumtani' bil ghayr. Mumkin bil dhat. Okay, mumkin bil dhat either becomes wajib bil ghayr or mumtani' bil ghayr. If illat tamma is there, it becomes wajib bil ghayr. If illat tamma is not there, it's mumtani' bil ghayr. فَمِنَ الْمُحَالِ صُدُورُ الْمُمْكِنِ. It's impossible that mumkin, contingent being, happens, means is created, مِنْ غَيْرِ تَرَجُّهٍ وَتَعَيُّنٍ, without preference and necessity of one of the two sides of existence and non-existence. It's impossible. They must either wujud becomes necessary or adam becomes necessary. بل الفعل الاختياري لكونه ممكنا في ذاته يحتاج في وجوده إلى علة تامة لا يتخلف عنها. The right view is that voluntary action, because it is contingent in itself, in its essence, for existence needs complete cause. لا يتخلف عنها, and it cannot run away from its complete cause. You cannot have illat tamme and not ma'lul. Yeah? لا يجوز تخلف المعلول عن علته التامة. Remember these points. Yeah? لا يجوز تخلف المعلول عن إلا. When you have complete cause, can معلول say, I don't want to come to existence? No. If there's illat tamme, it must come. نسبته إليها نسبة الوجوب. This ma'lul, which is fairly ikhtiyari with respect to that illat tamme, has the relation of necessity. It becomes wajib bil ghayr. Amma nisbatuhu ila al-insan. Okay. So, fairly ikhtiyari, if you consider it with whole illat tamme, it must happen. But if you consider it only with your will is not illat tamme, because sometimes you want to do something and it doesn't happen, and there are many other things that have to happen. Yeah? So you are illat naqise, you are not illat tamme. So with respect to illat naqise, is it necessary to be or it's possible to be? It's possible to be. أما نسبته إلى الإنسان الذي هو جزء من أجزاء علته التامة فبالإمكان. But its relation, the relation of what? فعل اختياري, to human being. And human being is part of the parts, it's like one part of علة التامة, complete cause. So the relation is بالإمكان. It's possible. Let's continue. كسائر الأجزاء التي لها, like other parts of علة التامة. Any ma'lul with respect to parts, each part is not necessary to happen. It can happen, it cannot happen. It's mumkin. But if all the parts of علة التامة are there, it's completed. علة التامة is completed, ma'lul must happen. كسائر الأجزاء التي لها. What is لها? علة التامة. Like other parts. Other parts are what? المادة القابلة. There must be a matter that accepts this. For example, you want to make a chair. You have to have wood. And then you give to that wood the form of chair. Or you want to have flower, you have to have seed, and so that becomes flower. And also other conditions about time and space, and you need light, you need oxygen, many things you may need. فالفعل الاختياري لا يقع إلا واجبا بالغير. So voluntary action cannot happen unless it has become necessary by another thing, by the other. Other means illat tamme. Because الشيء ما لم يجب لم يوجد. Even فعل اختياري has to become واجب بالغير. كسائر المعلولات. All the effects are like this. Nothing from ممكنات can come to existence unless it is واجب بالغير. God exists because he's واجب بالذات. We can exist if we become واجب بالغير. ومن المعلوم أن الوجوب بالغير لا يتحقق إلا بالانتهاء إلى واجب بالذات. Necessity by another thing finally must end with واجب بالذات. Because if this is going one after the other and never stops, would become tasalsul. Door is not possible. Vicious circle is not possible. Endless regression is not possible. So we should reach something which is wajib bizzat. A is wajib bil ghair, so we need ghair. That ghair must be wajib bil ghair. We need another one. But finally, wajib bizzat. Wala wajib bizzat illa huwa ta'ala. There is no necessary being by itself except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this shows that finally on the top, everything goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So His qudrah includes everything. فَقُدْرَتُهُ تَعَالَى عَامَّةٌ. His power is inclusive. حَتَّى لِلْأَفْعَالِ الْإِخْتِيارِيَةِ. It includes even our voluntary actions. So Mu'tazilah were wrong when they thought His power doesn't include our actions. Asha'ira wanted to say everything is included, but they denied ikhtiyar. That was the problem. But we say, لا جبر ولا تفويض بل أمر بين أمرين. Okay. Then there is another way to explain this. I think we leave it inshallah for another session. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.